Oh, hello. We are live on Wednesday, December 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, ramble time, so that people have a chance to log in. So, welcome, December 8th. It is my stepson Cooper's birthday. Shout out, happy birthday, Cooper. 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So let me know when you have logged on and you are here. Looking forward to starting tonight talking about illuminate your new year, illuminate your forever. I even have my little poster to hold up tonight. So welcome to Insights with Ivanna. This is a weekly broadcast designed to help you identify, embrace, and live more fully in your genius by illuminating important pieces of information you actually already possess. So do let me know when you're here. Hi, Chanina. So good to have you here this evening. So I hope that you, Chanina, and others will join me over the next 4 weeks to explore illuminate your new year and illuminate your forever. So I love mnemonics. They help me remember things. So there's 4 steps plus the EVER. Hey, Jody. And the EVER stands for embrace, visualize, empower, and receive. So we are going to follow these steps and you can up level your life now and forever. So I am Ivanna, the founder and chief luminary officer of Luminary Insights and intuitive coaching brand. So today we will begin our Illuminate Your New Year series. Illuminate your new year, illuminate your forever. So let's see. Yay, Shanita and Jody, thank you so much for joining me tonight. So, you can actually do these 4 steps at any time, but I've chosen the last 4 weeks of the year with so many holidays and all the hustle and bustle as a way to approach New Year's resolutions with a twist. So let me ask you, what if you entered 2020 already a stronger, better version of yourself with habits in place and the whole year ahead of you to change your world, even change the world for the good? So tonight we'll explore the E, embrace. Embrace is to embrace your genius by identifying the difference between your zone of excellence and your zone of genius. On December 15th, we will visualize your up-leveled life and explore strategies to help you see it clearly. On the 22nd, we become empowered by taking action, and on the 29th, we receive. You have to join me to learn all about that one. So while others are setting goals and planning massive action, they may be preparing to struggle and to strive, to complete early morning workouts at the gym. Just as one example, you are forever walking in inspired action. So early mornings at the gym may still be part of the plan, but the energy behind it will be that of grace and confidence, not strife and struggle. So let's explore how. I am going to launch a poll to ask you, how do you approach New Year's resolutions? And you have 4 choices. Mine are set, like I am ready to go. I'm thinking about them. I don't do that. Or something other that you can put in the chat box. So I do believe that that has deployed and you should be able to see the questions there. How do you approach New Year's resolutions? So I'll give you a second to answer. So if you're watching the replay, answer this for yourself, even if you can't put it up to have it show up on the screen. And so I think I can close it right there. Awesome. So there are so many different ways that you can approach the resolutions, and it doesn't look like the poll closed. So let me know in the chat if it is not going away. No options appear. It's showing up on my screen. Can you see it now? You can just type your answers in the chat box. How do you approach New Year's resolutions? My screen shows that it is up, but the questions or the answers are, mine are set. I'm thinking about them. I don't do that. Or something other. I don't know why the poll's not working. Yeah, I noticed that the numbers had gone down, Shanina. I'm so sorry it kicked you out. Maybe in the future I will just ask the questions. I keep going back to the poll and trying to turn it off, and it's like it's disappeared altogether. I had 2 poll questions listed for tonight, and yep, it's there. Okay, active. Let me try it again. Don't answer it though. I think I've turned that one off. All right, so different people react to setting New Year's resolutions different ways. So Jody is thinking about them, and Shanina is, I don't do that. So I'd love for you to type in the chat box a little bit more about your answer. And while you're answering, I will tell you that I'm sort of in between the thinking about them and I don't do that because I really don't want to set myself up to fail. And I always seem to tackle something so huge that it turns out being a struggle for me to accomplish. So Chanina says, I reset, which means I reflect on where I am emotionally, physically, and mentally. Awesome. So you look at where you are and you decide where you want to go. That to me feels a lot more comfortable. Like I said, for me, I always set myself up with such huge goals that then it's really not something I can accomplish. And from what we can tell with the way the gyms pack out in January and then drop away by March, a lot of people seem to do that. And so let's see if Jody has another answer. I know Jody's probably typing really slowly today with one arm not working real well at the moment. But I really want to think about how can we embrace, which is the first step, embrace our genius. And spiritually, yes. Putting them all together, Chanina. Thank you. Awesome. So how can we embrace our genius? So if you've been involved in the previous broadcast, we've talked before about what genius is. Your genius is where you're in flow, where time like almost stands still because what you're doing comes so naturally to you. It just is where you belong. And so when you embrace your genius, that flow happens and it's not hard to do. And accomplishing what you're meant to do seems effortless. And as I said, time stands still and it can lead to real miracles. So for me, learning new things, writing, teaching, speaking in front of an audience, and coaching others to be their best selves, that's my zone of genius. And when I go into that zone, it's like I'm almost in another reality. Like everything around me kind of gets blurry and ideas come and words flow. And it's like my life and others can be transformed by the things I say because I'm in that realm, that zone of genius. And when I set my goals around my genius, other aspects of my life fall in place. So let me give you an example. During the first 11 months of the pandemic, I focused on new learning, especially in the area of my own self-development. I was writing for Women Who Shine and writing materials for Luminary Insights. During that time, during that pandemic where I was at home, I actually became more inspired to exercise and to eat a healthier diet, and I lost 30 pounds. So, as many of you know, weight has been one of my lifetime struggles. And when I focus on it, it's like it becomes a battle. Like I'm fighting constantly about thinking about what I'm going to eat, and I don't want to be restricted. But when I focus on my genius instead, the balance comes into other parts of my life. But as you know, it's not a one and done. So after about 13 months, I caught myself spending less time in my zone of genius and more in my zone of excellence. So your zone of excellence is the area where you do great work. People probably ask you to do it because you're so good at it, but it's work. It can be draining, it can be tiring. You probably enjoy it, but you're not in that sense of flow. And I've been doing a lot of my zone of genius lately, working on my website, doing the social media posts, creating graphics on Canva. I love all those things, but they're not effortless for me. They're challenging. They can be really draining. And guess what? I started gaining weight back. So let's pause a minute and ask you about your zone of genius. So before I do that, I want to go back to the comments because I see that Jody did answer me. She wants to do something to work on improving herself, but hasn't narrowed it down yet. Okay, great. So you're thinking about what you want your resolutions to be. You're not quite sure what they are. So this next part about thinking about your genius and creating your goals around that sense of ease, that sense of flow, can actually help you with the parts where you're struggling. So I'm not going to do the poll this time since it kicked you out, Janina. I'm going to read the questions, but if anybody else has popped on, please go ahead and type in the chat so that I know you are here. So the poll says, what percentage of time do you live in your zone of genius? So the first answer is I strive for 80% or more. So if that's your answer, you can just put 80. The second answer is I'm at about 50 to 79%. So you can just type 50. I'm lucky if I get 20 to 49%. You can just type 20. Maybe 1 to 19%. I'm really not sure what my zone of genius is. And so you can put a 1. So 80%, 50%, 20%, 1%. Where are you in the amount of time that you actually live in your zone of genius? Now, again, if you've been listening to the broadcast, you have a deeper understanding of what your zone of genius is. If you haven't been listening and you're really not sure what it is, that's great. Go with the 1. But if you know what it feels like, when I'm giving a presentation at a conference, again, it's just like almost like there's a haze in the room and I'm in a different place and things just flow. That's when I'm in my zone of genius, the things that I'm created to do. So how much time do you live in your zone of genius? 80, 50, 20, or 1%? And I am looking for answers. 1 to 19 probably. Okay, and that 1 to 19 can be 1, you don't know what it is, or 2, you kind of know what it is, but right now in your life you don't have those opportunities to really do that for whatever reason. And so that's where this broadcast, I hope, will really be able to help inspire you that as you're looking at your goals for the next year, as you're looking at goals that you can begin to put in place in the next 4 weeks before we even move into the next year, thinking about that goal being one of your zone of genius things. How can you do it more often once you've identified what it is? So Chanina says zone of genius 50 to 79%. Great. Depends on the time of year. Yes. And I have to work really hard to not let the zone of excellence dominate my life. Absolutely. That is one of the things that we have to be so cognizantly aware of. Because that zone of excellence is a comfort zone, because that zone of excellence is something we do well and probably others see us do it well and they ask us to do it. They want us to come help with certain things because we do it so well. We can very easily get stuck in that zone of excellence without ever stepping out and really purposefully spending more time in that zone of genius. So thank you. Yeah, Jody, some days it's higher. Absolutely. Absolutely, because as Chanina said, it's something we have to work at. But if you're having to work really hard at it, then you're not in that zone of genius, right? So we want to be able to be fluid in our lives. We want to be invigorated by what we're doing, not worn down. I think about us in teaching so often. You know, teachers leave the classroom every day absolutely exhausted, right? So many of them. And that's because they're doing all the work instead of the students doing all the work. And when you see a teacher who's truly in their zone of genius, they're empowering those students, they're invigorating those students, and those students want to learn, and they're doing the work, and they're owning their own knowledge, you see that teacher walking away feeling energized because they're in that zone of genius and they're helping their students be in that zone as well. So if you Oh, thank you, Chanina. Yeah, I miss that. I miss that aspect of being in a classroom or being in a training session, working even with people one-on-one where you see those light bulbs coming on and you can ask a question, but then you're just sitting back and watching the miracles. You're just watching the flower blossom as the person you're working with or the students are the ones that are just embracing learning. And I loved working with students, especially when I could bring in something that was what they wanted to do. I tie it to the curriculum, but let them go in a direction that meant something to them in their personal lives. So very, very powerful. And when you're coaching someone one-on-one and you're looking at how do you step more into your own zone of genius, once you've identified it, and it's so easy for us to say, oh, I can't because, and once we say, I will because, it can change our entire lives, right? So if you do know, or you're pretty sure what your zone of genius is, what I really want to encourage you as you're thinking about the new year, whether you're setting resolutions or doing resets, think about how you can grow in the areas that you already know are your zone of genius. So, do you want to add an additional skill set to that genius? Do you want to share your genius with others? Maybe you just want to spend more time in that zone. In The Great Leap by Gay, I can't think of his last name. Oh, I can't believe I just blanked on one of my favorite books. I'll find it. But he talks about his own life and how once he identified his zone of genius, he said, okay, over the next few months, I'm going to increase it by 5%. I'm going to increase it by 5%. And he lives his life at least 80% in his zone of genius. And you can do that within your job. You might end up changing your job to make that happen, but you can do that in your work. You can do that in your personal life, and it's so powerful. And once you have thought about those things, just brainstorm. Just throw out all sorts of ideas. If you truly brainstorm, nothing is off limits. And when we allow ourselves to just create, we can come up with ideas we never thought of before. And if we don't tell ourselves they're impossible, we can start finding ways to make them happen. So anyway, after you brainstorm, narrow down your possibilities to maybe about 3, and then bring them with you next week to this broadcast, because we're going to explore how to visualize what you have chosen during this first section where we are talking about embracing. So embracing your zone of genius and then visualizing what you can do in that zone. So for me, in the middle of the pandemic, I began to learn more about my zone of genius, which is speaking and coaching and writing. And I began to visualize writing a chapter in a book that became a #1 international bestseller. That wasn't something I'd ever thought about before in that way. I'd always thought about writing, but it was more in the academic sense. It wasn't really about writing part of my story. But I began to visualize that, and then it became a reality. I mean, it blows my mind still. I know you guys are tired of seeing this book, but it blows my mind still to see my picture on the front and the back of a book, to see my name on a spine, and to see international #1 bestseller on a book that my name is on. That was new for me. That was tapping into my zone of genius and then visualizing it in order to make it happen. So brainstorm, come up with some possibilities, and then let's explore them some more once you've narrowed them down next week, and we'll talk about how to really visualize and dig deeper into them. So let's see what Jody said. She liked the point about the teachers, and Jody says, I love watching learning take place. Yes, especially when a learner has been really working hard on something. Absolutely, watching that light bulb come on, and then watching them become a I don't know, to embrace the learning and to become enthralled with that zone of genius and growing in it themselves. Well, I'm curious from you guys, if you've begun to brainstorm at all. It's okay if you haven't. Some of the ways that you could live more fully in your genius, or to even share with us a little bit more about what your genius is. I have some ideas because I know some of you guys pretty well. But, where is your zone of genius? What is it that just makes you tick? So I'm going to be quiet for a second, hold up my little picture, and let you type. So keep typing if you're typing. Some of the things I've been brainstorming, I've been working on a course on positivity, and that's part of my zone of genius with the writing. I really want to finish that course. I also want to be able to use that course to help people grow and to become the best versions of themselves, which is that one-on-one coaching or that group coaching. So those are two of the things I'm looking at that I really want to happen. And I've been working on that course off and on for quite some time. It keeps getting put to the side. So next week when we talk about visualize, I'm going to be coming up with ways that I can really see myself completing the course. I can see myself using the course to help people grow. So those are some of the things I'm thinking of. Jody says, never tire of it. So I'm assuming you're talking about the teaching and watching students learn, the never tire of it. Awesome. Well, any other thoughts you guys would like to share? I would love to hear about your zone of genius, and remind you that this is going to be a 4-week series. First, we're talking about embrace your zone of genius. Next week, we'll talk about visualizing. How do you up-level your life by really visualizing? And we'll talk about some specific strategies to help you see things clearly. Then on the 22nd, we'll talk about being empowered by taking action. And on the 29th, receive. So the 29th may end up being a recorded broadcast. I will be out of town with family, but I'm hoping to go live. I just like being live better, and hoping that people are able to show up and say hello, so that when we move into the new year, we are empowered and we are able to change our lives in a positive way, illuminating the new year and illuminating your forever. So I don't see any new comments coming in right now. So I do just want to thank you guys for being here. I hear from several different people that they pop in every week, but if you don't tell me that you're here, I don't know that you're here. Sometimes the number isn't even accurate about how many people are on. So please post in the chat. If you're watching this as a replay, please post in the chat as well, so that we know what you got out of it. Chanina says, I'm curious what you think about my zone of genius. And Jody says, sharing my time and talents with others, absolutely. And Chanina also says, I will ponder and put it into words by next time. So Chanina, I definitely have some thoughts about where your zone of genius is. I want to see what you come up with, and then let's dig into it a little bit deeper over the next 3 weeks. And if you can't make a broadcast, go ahead and watch the replays and type there. But I would love to talk to you about it more. So the website is My Luminary Insights. There's supposed to be a little bar across here that says that, but I don't see that either. myluminaryinsights.com. And if you do want to dig deeper into your zone of genius, you can always go to the Let's Talk page and fill that form out, and we can go a little deeper with that. So I hope you found today's episode educational and maybe even entertaining. Please feel free to share this with friends and invite them to come. I know that we're all really busy, but I get so much out of having this discussion with you guys, and I think that's part of the whole beauty of those of us that love to educate and coach others, is that every time we share something with someone else, we kind of reinforce it in ourselves and learn it in a deeper way for ourselves. So let's see what Jody said. Oh yeah, photography, working on computers, photo editing. If you've been to my website, at the moment, all of the photography on the website, the photography that is being used in the social media, all of that is from Jody. We did this amazing photo shoot together, and that is one of her talents and one of her zones of genius that she's able to use with people. And I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, working on computers, when things blow up, I do call you, don't I? And so fantastic, fantastic. Well, I always try to keep these to 30 minutes or less, because I know I don't want to sit down and watch an hour broadcast when I'm tired, or when I've had missed the live broadcast. So maybe later they'll get a little bit longer, but I just love having you guys here and having a chance to talk about, where are you? Where is your zone of genius, and what do you want to do with it? So thank you again one more time. My catchy little phrase, illuminate your new year, illuminate your forever. And I appreciate you so much. With love and light, guys. Mwah. Bye-bye.